Hello, as you can see, I'm down. Not out, but definitely down. On the floor. Going to show you, hopefully, my way of making templates for the shapes for the teardrop. I've come across a couple of different ways of creating shapes, like these rounded shapes. One of them is using nails, creating fixed points, and string. This is a very exact way which you can create especially symmetrical shapes. In my intro, the ellipse for my sign has been created in that way. So if you want to know more about that, there's lots of good tutorials on the internet, how to create an ellipse, for example, or other spherical or symmetrical shapes where you use fixed points and a string. So that's one way. In this instance, I've opted for another way, which I pretty much made up myself. One reason for that being that my shapes aren't really symmetrical. They are in some ways, but in some ways they're not. I hope that you can see some of the things that I've been drawing up on these boards, which are just boards that I happen to have around, and I've joined them up to make the size that I need for the shapes of the teardrop. These green lines outline the width and the height of the caravan as it's going to be. I have a long green line here for the simple reason that this is actually where the bed will sit. But for aesthetic reasons, I want my panels to continue down. I want them lower. A lot of the caravans, because of the size, of course, of the wheels and where the axle is, sit fairly high. Aesthetically, I don't like that, and it's not going to go very well along with the Worcester, so I'm going to continue the panels down below the bed, but this is where the bed will sit. The actual height at its highest, which of course is here, is going to be 130 centimeters. It's going to be 150 centimeters wide. But as you can see, these black lines, which I've now made 3 of, I'm going to make a 4th one soon, they are the shape looking at the trailer from the front or the back. My method of making them, because they're not really symmetrical, they're just the shape that I want, for a few different reasons. One thing is there's no bend up here, because I have this thing that I think I would like a skylight and have light coming in from the top of the caravan. So I don't want to make that shape too difficult. So actually there will be one part of the caravan on top where it's flat. So, and then they start to bend, and in the same way lengthwise, which I haven't started to lay out yet, it starts to bend right here, and then it keeps on going round. I can also tell you that I've seen very nice ways of, with 2 fixed points and a string going from point to point, but being longer, and with a pen people can do these kind of shapes and get them very, of course, mathematically correct. You can find more about that on the internet, as I do, and also where people have put up plans for teardrops. The method for making the shapes that I opted for this time is using, which I've done before, anything that will bend in a sympathetic fashion. So I have nails that I fix, and then I can put these in like that, and I get shapes that will be, you know, bending in a similar fashion all along. Of course, where you want to change the radius, or where you have to have more fixed points. So I've used that one for the longer sides, having made the decision to where the bed actually stops here. I'm moving out 7 centimeters, so this will be a curve to the side wall, which I'm just doing because I hope it's going to look good. I'm also using my steel ruler, which is another way where it bends in a coherent, I guess you could call it, fashion, so that you get a sympathetic bend. They're not laid out mathematically, they're just, you know, you need something that bends in a consistent, you could also say, fashion. When you have something like that, and you have 2 or 3 fixed points that you want to join, that's actually a pretty good way of doing it. Now this again also is a way which meets my requirement of, I will only be doing this, I think, once, maybe twice, we'll see. But it's a one-off, so it can't be too labor intensive. And this is a fairly easy way. These hoops, or what you might call them, going from side to side, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. The height is determined by what I've laid out as my side view. So that's what have made them happen in these places. They will be the first bars that I bend, these hoops, and they probably will be the first that I put onto the teardrop, and that will start to give me an idea of what it looks like. So I'll keep on. I got one more to do. I might also start to lay out the side view of the teardrop before I start doing any bending. I don't really know right now how I'm going to bend the bars or what I'm going to use for that. I would probably have to make some kind of tool. I've bent bars like this before, but if it's a fairly hard radius, I mean, it's not something you do with your hands, at least I can't. So I'll have to figure that out. I'll be back. So I've started to bend the round irons, the rods, that would be the bird cage. And as you can see, hopefully can see, I have made the first hoop here. The equipment that I'm using for the bending is this. I just took some things that I have. So there's an old rusty but pretty sturdy angle iron, and one of my pieces from a kit I have for changing wheel bearings. So I have these round things to press wheel bearings, but it works fine as a pivot point when I'm bending these rods. So I made one, and as you can see, I've started on the next one, and this is just, you know, my way of doing it, cheap, So I wanted to say a couple of things about money, because money is important. Nothing is free. There's no such thing as a free lunch. But if things were really expensive, I couldn't do it. So I have to find somewhat not too expensive ways of doing things. So, not totally by coincidence, you have my English wheel also in the background. Now, English wheels, of course, are extremely useful, maybe a must-have when you start to shape panels. You can do a lot with just your sandbag and your different hammers. But an English wheel is really nice to have. This one did not cost me more than approximately $300. I paid $250 for the wheels, and I made the frame myself. So once again, you need a welder. But if you have a welder and you know how to weld, you can find really good, again, plans on the internet for doing things like this. So finding ways of doing it so that you can build what you want, because that's the bottom line. It's always about how we can build the things that we want to build. So this is cheap. This is stuff I had. Some of the tools I have cost some money. A welder cost some money. But my English wheel did not cost me a lot of money, since I built the frame myself. So okay, I'll get on with it and start bending more of these hoops. And eventually we'll see if we can start welding together the birdcage. They're quite thin. I'm not even sure that you can see them. I hope you can. But these are the first two hoops. I've been bending, tweaking, using my templates on the floor, unbending, and there's a bit of work to it, but it's not high tech, it's not difficult. Trying to make sure that, of course, the hoops are similar in shape. I also made the decision, which I hadn't really made before, that I want a fixed point to start building the rest from. So instead of trying to make the longitudinal shape, I decided that I knew that these pieces will be straight. There's no bend to them. There's also, like I said before, no bend to this part and this part here. So this rectangular in the what will be the ceiling is straight. So I made those pieces and I welded them in, and then I could kind of trial fit this first part. And I'm excited. It's great to see what kind of shape it will be in real life. Looks okay, I think. The proportions, the size and sizes look good to me. So I'll keep on building from here.